he is. So James should be in with us now. There we go. James, are you on the call? Should be signing in. I've just accepted him. Let me have a quick look.
Yes, I'm here.
There we go. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. How are we?
Good. Yeah, very good. Very good. So we've still got people coming in. I think I mentioned to you briefly before, James, that we tried it a different way. So we've got people that have signed up via Eventbrite, and we've used a password. So as we mentioned, this is a couple of people have said they've had an issue or two with the password. So Ollie and Amber are in the background sorting that. So there will be a few people that are popping in as we are talking, but we'll carry on and see how that goes. So James, just a quick overview. So the people in here are the Vidrate VIPs. So these are subscribers to Vidrate, old and new. And yeah, kind of a wide range of awesome customers. These are our most loyal customers. So a great one. We try and do things like this as an extra benefit for people that have supported us from the start, such as yourself. So yeah, we'll just wanted to do a quick introduction into you while we was just getting all set up and going for housekeeping. I give a very brief introduction into you, but wondered if it's worth you doing a quick few minutes just talking about a little bit about yourself, your background, and I didn't even try to go through all the letters before and after your name, to be honest. I'll leave that one to you.
Yeah, nice. Evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. So I guess a quick summary into who I am and my experience. So I've spent the last 9 years of my life studying up in Liverpool at Liverpool John Moores University, and that's where I did my undergraduate degree in sport and exercise science. I then did a master's in sports physiology, and then transferred straight onto a PhD in sports nutrition. So I've spent 9 years kind of learning around nutrition, sports science, exercise physiology, body composition manipulation, applied physiology, and my special focus really on my PhD was with rugby players. But outside of that, I've also accumulated what I like to call craft knowledge, really, working with the professional athlete, and that experience has ranged from professional boxers to the England women's football team, to Bristol Bears Rugby Union. So if there's any rugby fans on here and you're not a Bristol rugby fan, then I'm sorry. And then outside of the professional athlete, it's then been with, I live in Bicester now, and I'm helping the local dog walker lose fat mass because he's not happy with his current body composition. So he's been on a 10 kilo drop in body weight and has managed to sustain it and is in the best condition he's ever been in. And then the local boxers at the amateur club here in Bicester. So the normal weekend warrior that might be training, started CrossFit, or they've started training for a 10K, you name it, I will help people with their body composition and nutrition and exercise goals. So that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour into me and what I'm doing right now, I guess, Nick.
Yeah, no, brilliant. I think just on that as well, when you mentioned that you work with professional athletes, and also you are working with, as you mentioned, the local dog walker and kind of everyday people as well. I remember when we first met, and we've trained together a few times and talked through nutrition and stuff like that. My kind of understanding, are you of the approach of kind of everything in moderation on that front? Or, because I remember that, I don't know if you used a calorie count and things like that exactly. I seem to remember that you weren't quite to that extent. Is that right? Or
yeah, you've nailed it, really. Look, for me, and this is all of my experience working with the elite population, like, nobody is a robot. As humans, we inherently make mistakes and we deviate from what we would like to do sometimes. And I'm a performance nutritionist. I've worked in pro sport for 9 years, and I've never ever used my fitness pal and calorie counted for myself. Why have I not done that? Because I don't think that that's where the focus should be. I think the focus should be on understanding what 80% of the time good nutrition should look like. And yes, if it's someone's birthday and you want to go and have a slice of cake, or you want to go and have a gin and tonic, go and do it. But for the other 6 days of the week, let's try and stick to some really good habitual nutritional behaviors and habits. And going on to the habits and behaviors, that really is what nutrition is. A lot of my work with the athletes now is all about accountability and guiding them down the right road to say, look, you don't need me to tell you that having a Domino's every night or other pizza brands that are available is not the best thing to be doing as a professional rugby player. What I would recommend is doing X, Y, Z, but on a Tuesday, if it is your partner's birthday and you want to have a pizza and go out to wherever, then go and do it. But for the rest of the week, let's be really smart about what we're consuming. Just for those on the call as well, as a bit of an education piece, the reason that I'm not too keen on kind of calorie counting to the calorie is because the Food Standards Agency actually allow a threshold in terms of the labeling of products. So I'll give you an example. One protein cookie versus another protein cookie. And unless they are absolutely on the money, every single batch that they make of that single cookie, it could be 57 calories and it could be 63 calories. Like we don't know, because there might be an extra half a nut in one of the cookies versus the other one. And so if you then add that up over everything that you consume over the course of the day and everything you drink, it's really difficult to be absolutely sure that you've had 2,182 calories. Because if you've put an extra bit of milk in your coffee and you didn't weigh it out to the millimeter, then that's another 1 or 2 calories there. So I then start going down the route of macronutrients and understanding how many carbs we're consuming over the course of the day. And importantly, and I don't mind talking about this later, how many proteins we're consuming over the course of the day as well.
Yeah, perfect. And I think that leads you on. We'll go into a little bit of your involvement with Vidrate, but one of the things I remember when we, James and I met a few years before, way before Vidrate was actually an idea. I actually remember the first time I mentioned to you that Rob and I were thinking of this concept, and I was in a car park at a hotel when I rang you and said, will you come on board in some capacity? And that was probably 4 or 5 years ago now. And one of the things I was saying about the idea is Rob and I had this kind of idea that water's boring and people should drink more, but they don't. And the drinks that should help you drink more are full of rubbish. And I remember you saying, you mentioned a couple of people, not names, but you said the highest profile athletes that you work with, you literally have to stand there saying, drink this water, drink water. So it's not just everyday people that struggle to drink water, is it, from your experience? And that kind of goes back to that everything in moderation. And what I'd say is small habits and small changes that make a massive difference.
Yeah, 100%. And there's a really good book called Atomic Habits by an author, James Clear, which if you haven't read it, I'd recommend, buying that and reading that book, because if I paint the picture of what a traditional Western diet might look like, most people and athletes that I work with as well would wake up and have a bowl of sugary cereal, for example. It might be Frosties or Wheatos or shredded wheat, whatever. So you have that bowl of cereal, and then it's the mid-morning cup of tea. But the habit that we've created is that we also then go and grab a couple of biscuits with a cup of tea. And then lunchtime, we might be busy and we've got a meeting, so we just grab a quick sandwich that's white bread and then a bag of crisps, because that's the habit that we've created with the sandwich at lunch. So you can quickly see how that nutritional day there is quite high in carbohydrate and really low in protein. But the habits that individual's created is the kettle gets boiled and already I'm thinking about, do I have 1 or 2 biscuits? So we almost have to come out of that and reflect and think, right, okay, if I know that that's the bad habit, how do I create a better, newer habit? And then it's understanding how habits are formed with the cravings and the cues. So I was chatting to someone earlier today actually about, does she go out in the morning and have a morning walk before breakfast? And she said no, because I basically get up too late. And so I said, well, what you could do quite simply is set the alarm 15 minutes earlier, but create the environment for you to win by putting the shoes by the front door, having your Hydrate water bottle ready, have your headphones charged, know what podcast you're going to listen to, so that literally all you have to do in the morning is get up, go down to the front door, put everything on, and off you go. And don't even think about it, but go and have a 15-minute walk. And then if you can then stack that habit Monday to Friday, or 3 days a week to start with, all of a sudden you might have done 10,000 steps extra that week that you've never done before.
Absolutely. I think that is the big thing, isn't it? And it is those small steps that we kind of start. We have people that say all the time, I never used to drink any water. Now I cannot not drink 3 litres a day, 2 litres a day, and that kind of thing. And I think that was so. Just on to your involvement with Hydrate, we obviously had the conversation initially, and you've literally been on board in a capacity since day one, haven't you? And the idea was always that we'd soundboard ideas with yourself, and you'd have input, and down the line when we came to more functional products, that's when your involvement would increase. And that was actually Boost and Nighttime was, for those that don't know, it was the ingredients in there that were chosen, the vitamins and that kind of thing were recommendations from yourself, weren't they, from kind of best practice in market and from the nutritional background?
Yeah, exactly. I guess the Boost one really stemmed off the fact, and I'm probably my worst kind of culprit for it really, is, I love coffee, and I probably do drink too much, to the point where, by the time I get to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I might have had 3 or 4. And so my habitual level of caffeine that I've now got circulating around my blood is actually too high at that point in the day. Now, I asked myself the question, am I consuming the coffee because I want the caffeine? Probably not. It's because I'm in the habit of having a coffee at 3 o'clock. So instead of that, now it's replacing that 3 o'clock coffee with, a Hydrate or a glass of water, and getting out of that habit. So yeah, the Boost one came from really, if you have a normal flat white, that might be 220 milligrams of caffeine, which is a substantial amount. To put that in perspective, that's 2.5 cans of Red Bull. So if you're someone that goes out and has 2 or 3 flat whites in a day, that's almost 8, 9 cans of Red Bull of caffeine that you're having. Or if you want that little kick of energy and stimulation, you could have 1 or 2 of the Boosts as an example, and you've obliterated your caffeine content and reduced it by 80%.
Absolutely. I'm probably that. I remember we once met at a hotel when we were speaking about this, and we were talking about caffeine and sleep and things like that, and the links, and that was me. So I can admit that I used to have probably 15 plus coffees a day just to get me through. And like the more I had, the more I'd need essentially. And then as soon as Boost came along, the thing that I found was twofold, that because I was diluting in more water, instead of having 200 ml in a coffee, I'm drinking 750 ml. And that water I can definitely feel when I'm more hydrated that I'm perked up and, more alert, more awake. But more importantly, the amount of caffeine is just enough, and the vitamins there just enough to kind of help with that boost, pardon the pun, but it's just enough to kind of give you that little bit without the crash and the dip. I'm just conscious to kind of keep going, because we obviously we've only got 45 minutes. It may be that we've already touched on 3 things that we could probably make into full Zoom. So it may be that we can have a chat to potentially do some more focused Zooms in the future, but keen to move on and just have a bit of a chat as well about your new book. So already you're a published author, aren't you? So
Yeah, it was a project of mine that I was keen on doing, and I'm just going to show the front cover here, but it's titled The Performance Nutritionist. And it's available on Amazon if people want to go and have a search. But this was really an investigation or a case study interview type book into 10 different performance nutritionists that currently work in professional sport, from Everton Football Club, Aston Villa, Tottenham Hotspurs, Team Sky cycling team, Munster Rugby, Australia cycling. And it was understanding and really finding out how those people gravitated and made their way through their career to the roles that they're in at the moment. Because the way that I did it was just one journey. It was one example. And there's many different ways that people, rise to the top in their respective careers. And so this was a book that I put together really for the younger student coming through now that wants to study sports science and wants to study nutrition, but is not quite sure how other people have done their career and got to where they are. And yeah, it's been an amazing process to go through. It was tough. It was hard work. It's a lot of work to get your book on Amazon and get it there. But yeah, it's been amazing to get that out. And I've just seen it pop up. Is it an audio book? Not at the moment. And
I'm available for voiceovers if you need. I've got a very it's probably more a sleep cast that I need to do, to be honest. But
I was going to say, I don't think people want to listen to a Danny Dyer talk through Performance Nutritionist.
Oh, brilliant! And I've just seen as well that MJ's just downloaded it right now onto Kindle. She said so. Amazing. Yeah, definitely a great one. And we'll go more into there's a couple of Q&As as well that we'll go into shortly, and we'll chat about we'll chat a little bit about the book. Interestingly, we mentioned sleep, and straight away Darren said take my money with the sleep emoji. So I'm assuming that a lot of people do struggle with sleep. Again, we've had so many conversations about this and about sleep and the effects of not getting enough sleep or deep enough sleep. And again, the last chat we had, I remember we were both saying, there's a lot of people that can have a cup of coffee or Red Bull and then go to sleep straight after. And we can go for a little bit of that, but I suppose that's a good one to touch on. Lisa's just said as well that she's gonna purchase the book if she doesn't win it in the competition in a bit. So a lot of people are looking here. Someone saying struggled big time with sleep. So I think that'd be a good kind of segue into what we want to do is some really kind of good tips that you found over the years for good health, particularly around hydration and sleep. It looks like there's Olivia. I know Olivia works in kind of theatre, and there's a lot of late nights and stuff. She said that she struggles. She struggles after a long day at work with sleep. So I suppose let's start with sleep. What kind of, and this is one of your geeky passions as well, isn't it? Sleep. It is. We've had so many conversations about it. What would you say your kind of top tips are? I'd say for sleep, and again, that sleep routine that's so important. And yeah, just top tips on sleep in general. Is there things nutritionally that can help with sleep?
Yeah. Sleep is a fascinating area because there's a lot of research on it at the moment. And if I'm by no means a specialist, but if anyone wants to go and listen to some podcasts, then just search Matthew Walker and sleep. And he's got an amazing book called Why We Sleep, and he's on some brilliant podcasts and YouTube videos. So if you want to go a little bit deeper into the science, he's the guy. In all of my experience working with athletes, and this translates to everyone, it doesn't matter whether you're an athlete or not, but there's certain things that we can do to set up our environment to allow us to sleep better. And I'll give you some examples. So for whatever reason, in our houses, the bathroom light tends to be the brightest in the house because you've got all of the mirrors and you've got all of the white walls and the shiny objects in a bathroom. So if you imagine that you're trying to get the brain ready for bed, but the last thing that we normally do before sleep is that we would brush our teeth and we would go to the toilet in the brightest room in the house. So what I've started doing now with my fiance is we don't put the light in the bathroom on. what we do is in the bedroom, we'll have a lamp on, and obviously not the main light in the bedroom, but we'll just have a lamp on so that it's a very calming and not a bright light environment. So I can see there's a number of individuals on here, Tanya and Madeline, that are sitting in the dark at the moment. But think about the light in your room. How bright is it when you're going into your sleeping environment? Another thing that the athletes do, and it is one of the worst things that you can do, is be sitting on phones and watching TV and watching laptops and movies when you're in your bed, because again, what you're doing is you're stimulating the brain, and you've got the bright light of the phone, you've got the bright light of the TV or the laptop. Now, the iPhones and Androids are quite good now. You can set them to the nighttime mode, which will take that bright light out of it, which if you don't do that already, I would almost set yourself a reminder, an alarm every day at 8 o'clock to activate that mode on the phone, and that will massively help. You also don't want an environment that's really hot. So we know from the literature that in and around that 18 to 19 degree temperature is kind of the optimal for the body to unwind and head off to sleep. If it's really hot in your bedroom, we get a little bit agitated and we can't quite calm down and rest. So think about temperature of the room. And then the last thing I would touch on there is also caffeine intake. So like I said earlier, if you're that person that is having the 3, 4, 5 o'clock coffee, think about, are you reaching for the coffee because you want the caffeine hit, or is it just the habit that you enjoy the coffee at that time and you like that hot drink? If it's the latter, then start replacing it and go with a decaf coffee instead. So still have your coffee, but now we're going to take out the caffeine in that drink. What I've started doing that recently, and it's massively helping me with some of my sleep time routines. And then the last thing I would add on that actually is try and stick to a routine. So for me at the moment, it's 10 o'clock bedtime, 6 o'clock wake up. I'm an early person. I enjoy getting up early, but I really try and stick to that routine. And if I fall outside of that for whatever reason, it kind of jolts me a little bit on that day, and I get out of a routine. So there's a lot of literature talking about sticking to a regular bedtime and wake time. That doesn't have to be 10-6, but it could be, either or. Yeah,
absolutely. I think the other one, interestingly, just to touch on, I was kind of fascinated when we were speaking about that. For those people that can have, let's say, I don't know, a coffee and then go to bed, and people will say, and I think you said, I think it was a relative or somebody, a partner or something like that, that you kind of said that they can literally have a coffee and then drop to sleep. But you were saying that it doesn't quite work. Like, you might get to sleep, but it's inefficient sleep. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. So if you think about what coffee does, like, let's be blunt about this. Caffeine is a drug, and it's a drug that stimulates the brain. So, there's also some other drugs we know on the market that stimulate the brain, which we won't talk about, but that's what coffee does. And it's a stimulant for the brain. And the way that it works is that it's stimulating the CNS and waking us up. So if we think about a cycle that someone might be in, which, by the way, it was my brother, the relative, my older brother, and I've tried educating him and he still won't listen. But if Daniel has a coffee at 8, 9 o'clock at night, and he's got no problem going to sleep, he can nod off. The quality of his sleep, although he might fall asleep, the quality of his sleep is nowhere near as optimal as it could be if he wasn't having that caffeine, because although he's nodded off, he's still got stimulation to the brain. So it's not quite switching off. And what we know is that the deeper you go and the more you go into the REM sleep, that is where the body recovers, resets and rejuvenates itself. So if you don't go into that kind of area of sleep because you've got the caffeine floating around the circulation, then we've got a problem. If Daniel then wakes up because he feels a little bit tired in the morning, a little bit sluggish, what's the first thing he reaches for? The drug again, caffeine. And then you then end up in this vicious cycle of you're just stimulating the brain constantly every 3-4 hours of the day. So that's why I would suggest, refraining from having the caffeinated drink after 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Perfect. There's a notification just come up to say we've just got just under 10 minutes. So what I want to do, if it's okay with you, is got a few questions that have come in from the Vidrate community to run through. They can be fairly quick fire, to be honest. And then we want to have the last kind of 5 minutes on the one-to-one sessions that you've very kindly offered and allowed us to offer to our members. Everyone, just a quick one. We will be sending an email out with information on the one-to-ones and things like that to everybody. So we'll go through a snapshot today and more information will follow tomorrow. Questions, a couple for you personally. How long did your book take to complete?
Start to finish, 18 months, but that was because I was lazy at some points.
I think you said before, I can't remember if you said 9 years or about that. How long did it take you to become fully qualified?
Yeah, 3-year undergrads, 1-year masters, and then a 3-year PhD. So 7 years of higher education study. Perfect.
And did you ever see yourself wanting to become, wanting to be a pro athlete in any form, or was you more interested in the?
Yeah, I grin because I've spoke about this quite a lot recently with other people. I think anyone that works in professional sport is at some level a failed athlete, because that's why we love sport, because we wish we were the athlete and we wish we were putting the gum shield in and the boots on, but unfortunately I wasn't as good as I wanted to be. So the next step for me is to then support the athletes and to help athletes with their winning performances. So I think most people that work in pro sport at some point they were an athlete or they wanted to be an athlete.
Great stuff. And someone's just said here, how does a product like Vidrate help? Vidrate nighttime help with sleep? And on that, somebody said, you know, why have we put 5-HTP, L-theanine, and magnesium into the into the nighttime?
Yeah, so really. Yeah, if you look at the literature, so I'm just going to explain. So 5-HTP, the more common word that people might have heard in the literature or reading is tryptophan, and it's a naturally occurring amino acid, but there's a lot of research showing that it's got links to sleep latency and the ability to have more efficient sleep when we are sleeping. So it's naturally occurring. One of the best food sources of it is actually turkey, like turkey meat. And so the reason that we put that in the product is because we wanted to have a product that then supported the ability of the individual to nod off, I guess, and go to sleep. The reason that we've got L-theanine in there, again, because there's a few studies that have suggested that it can help people relax and kind of switch off, I guess, if you like, in the evening time. So, you know, the opposite of that is that you put caffeine in a nighttime product, which is not what we wanted to do. And then finally, magnesium again. So there's quite a bit of research showing people that have habitually low magnesium levels, they might be a little bit deficient in magnesium because they've took out certain food types in their diet for whatever reason, can be a little bit irritable and a little bit fidgety in that evening window. And so that's why we wanted to put magnesium in that product.
Awesome. Thank you. A couple of quick fouls. So a good question here, if you haven't drank enough water throughout the day, which we've all done occasionally, no matter how much try, if somebody went home and was like, I'm going to catch up, I'm going to drink 2 litres straight away, good or bad?
Yes, it's a good question, actually. And I'm going to kind of sit on the fence with this a little bit, because the reason I say that is, where possible, we want to stay hydrated to the best of our ability. And there's 2 ways that we can do that very easily and detect. One is the thirst mechanism. So dry mouth, little bit, yeah, I can feel that I'm thirsty. That's the best detection to say to yourself, right, go and have a glass of water. The second one is urine color. Okay, so if we know that our normal urine color is quite pale, but then all of a sudden it's gone, you know, quite syrupy or yellow, then wow, there's a great detection to say that we're a little bit dehydrated. So if that individual who asked the question got to the end of the day and we're quite thirsty and we've got the dark urine, I would definitely recommend drinking but not drinking 2 liters straight away. The better way to approach that is actually to sip, because what you don't want to do is drink a whole lot straight away and then almost force the kidneys to get rid of it straight away. You're better off just sipping small and often. The other thing to think about there is, if we consume a really big bolus dose before or in the evening time before bed, what is the impact then on waking up during the night? And where possible, we want to try and maintain a full night's sleep.
Perfect. If I want to just touch on, we've got just over 3 minutes left. So I just want to touch on the one-to-one sessions and the signed book. And then there's a couple of questions. If we get a chance at 30, 60 seconds at the end, we'll go through. So James has very kindly offered to host, I think we said up to 5, did we, one-to-one sessions with Vidrate customers. So there's usually there's usually quite it's a much larger cost for this, but James has very kindly offered to reduce that by 25%. We'll put more out about this in the next few days. So there is a chance to get did you say it'd be a Zoom call, James?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to do it at the moment is, instead of just a normal phone call, a Zoom call, I always find a bit better to really get to know each other and find out exactly where are the areas that need to be improved and what are the goals moving forward. And then where I've helped some of the local people here is understanding current exercise and nutrition behaviors. What are you currently doing really well actually in your lifestyle? But importantly, where can we tweak? Where can we start bolting on little bits to improve it for the better?
Perfect. So what we'll do, we'll send, as I mentioned, tomorrow, we'll send out an email to everybody that was on this call with that opportunity. It is only, we've got 24 still in at this moment in time. But so we're going to offer 5 sessions from this call. More information to follow on the email. And then what we're going to do as well, we're going to at random pick. I'll get a name generator and get James to do it. But we're going to pick somebody from this live, this Zoom at random, who will win a signed copy of your new book also. So again, we'll confirm all of that by email. So 5 one-to-one sessions with James and the signed book. On to the final minute. So first of all, just in case it cuts out at the end, and I'll just see if we can get 30 seconds of a question at the end, but I'll do this now just for, because I just wanted to say a massive thank you to you, James. It's been so good. And I did say, didn't I, this 40 minutes absolutely flies by. And I think everyone will say I actually did quite well at not talking as much as normal. You actually managed to speak, which is a bonus. But yeah, thank you so much. I'd absolutely love to. I'll chat to you offline, James, and we'll see if we can get some more specific ones on. We could probably go on for a full one on sleep and a full one on habit and things like that. So last question from me is, if you could make any Vidrate product that was functional, what would you go for?
I'm going to be cheeky and say 2. One is to do with collagen protein, because I think it's really important that people understand about that moving forward. And the other one is a gut product, because there's a lot of work now coming out around gut microbiome and how important that is for the gut-brain axis and everything we do with nutrition.
Amazing.